and I'll say this is a wonderful opportunity, and we appreciate being able to share a little bit about what the center does for our students on campus, or we hope that we're making an impact. When we're looking for undergraduate research, the main thing that we are trying to do is have independent opportunities for the students. In other words, they're not just doing term papers, but they're actually working with a faculty mentor, and this is supposed to produce some sort of a fairly large product. We ask our students to put it in 10 hours a week for the course of the semester. So it's a fairly large undertaking for them, but they work one-on-one with a faculty mentor, and as we said, we're trying to make them understand as well what research is, that it is not necessarily just going to the library, using Aquila and finding resources, but necessarily making something new that is a contribution to the discipline. And I'm very pleased with some of the work that has been going on campus. It just sometimes blows me away. One of them that we've had was a student who did the Hattie Dance Project, and she actually had her dance performed in Venice, Italy, and she was the topic of a magazine discussion about it, and since then she's gone on to do work in Texas and other places as well. We have another student who is actually working on trying to come up with different proteins in the brain dealing with Alzheimer's in terms of diagnosis and treatment. We also have had another student, and it was a project that I never had really anticipated, but he was trying to look at how people's body movements are trying to anticipate things in the environment, such as going up a ramp or a step or something along those lines. And if there's ways that you can read the body movements, trying to help people who might be in danger, such as older people, where they can't control their body coordination quite as much. And so he had all sorts of sensors on them all over as well. And so many of these projects are not only helping the students gain a lot from the experience themselves, but they're actually producing things that are going to be of help to the community at large. And we're very proud of that part too. One other student who was just working at the symposium last spring, I was so pleased with, he was looking at the levels of the water in the Pascagoula Basin, and he was trying to test what areas of, as you can see, of drought and of plentiful rainfall using dendrochronology or tree ring dating. And so when I was talking with him just at one of the receptions, he had mentioned that there was a drought in the early 1700s. And as Jeannie knows, we had worked on the coast at a site down in Biloxi, which dated between 1719 and 1722. And there were a number of European immigrants who died there. They were brought over from France to settle the Louisiana colony. And there were extensive reports of malnutrition and high disease rates. And undoubtedly, this was one of the exacerbating conditions that was going on. But as far as I'm aware, nobody has commented on the historical record yet. So this is just another way that you see a lot of interdisciplinary work going on as well. So when we're looking at the benefits of research, no surprise, it's very, very helpful in terms of classroom teaching. So many times, I'm sure many of you have tried to explain it to a class, and you just get dumb, kind of look at you like, okay. But when you have to explain it to a student one-on-one, there's no ability for them to sort of just dismiss it and I'll figure it out later. And so very frequently, by trying to teach it to a student through the mentoring experience, you find ways that you can explain it that much better in your classroom setting as well. It's fun, no doubt there. And another part, a lot of times it helps advance the mentor's research project. But we do try to emphasize that the students have to own the project that they're working on. They can't be data collectors. They have to design something, collect the data, go through all of the troubles associated with the analysis of it, and present it themselves. And so, but still, very frequently, it feeds into a larger laboratory project as well. And then we also, at the university, we hope the students talk about, I don't know, do they, JD? Have you ever, do you guys get together at the lunch table and discuss it?
We definitely have talked about our different Eagle Spur projects.
There you go. Okay, very good answer. But we're just hoping that as our students talk about their research, that they expand with other students as well and create more of a community of learners on campus too. We also have had a lot of success with students who have won very prestigious fellowships. The National Science Foundation funds these awards for the sciences that are funded through the NSS. It's also the social sciences. And the rate annually for most universities is around 12.5%. We had 40% last year. And so these sorts of experiences give students very much a leg up when they go into this sort of an application. And it also helps with relationships with alumni, as most of you know. Hopefully will help with money too. I'm proud to talk about that. And then another thing too is it helps with the community. This was actually at the site we had worked on, but just how many times the community is involved with what we're doing. And one of the projects that we had going on last spring was they were doing dendrochronology of the Deasonville house, or the Deason house up in Laurel. If anybody is aware of that place. And I was just talking with somebody this morning on an archaeological dig that we were looking at down in Perry County, and they mentioned that they knew that the student was doing that project. And there actually is something called Mississippi Ghostbusters, and the house is from the 1840s, and somebody was murdered there. And they said when they were actually doing the testing of the tree rings, that if you went under the foundation of the house, you could still see where blood had seeped through and the stain of it on the boards underneath. Over on the top, I guess they painted over and all that to hide it up as much as they could. But it's really amazing how many of the projects that we have reach out into the community at large. And then, of course, for the student, they get better skills. They also can test drive a career choice. We had one student who came in the other day and said, I wanted to be an archaeologist, but I don't like being outside. So, well, I guess there's always a lab. But anyway, they can give it a shot. Is it something that they might be interested in? It looks wonderful on their applications for both jobs and going to grad school. They learn how to network, especially at meetings. They learn how to talk to people. One thing we try to teach them at the center is they have something called an elevator talk. You know what we're talking about for that? So that in 30 seconds they can explain their work to somebody. So if they go to a conference and they're standing in line waiting at Starbucks for coffee next to the person that they want to work with for graduate school, by the time the cappuccino's ready, they can explain what they're up to. So we try to help them with skills such as that. It also has been shown to increase GPAs. And you may say, well, they're smart students to start out with. Yes, they are. But even when they match them for all sorts of other abilities, ACT scores and all that, with students who don't do research, the students are much better off because of it. They have higher retention rates and graduation rates. And the success rate is more than double for underrepresented communities as well. So these are some of the advantages we hope to get to on campus. And then the main thing that to me is the most enjoyable is seeing them grow, seeing them mature, seeing them gain confidence, seeing students that could barely present 5 words in front of a group suddenly give a presentation of 15 minutes on it at the Undergraduate Research Symposium. And I can say that when faculty discuss students, this is where we show the most joy in our students, not necessarily what their GPA is. And so anyways, why isn't everybody doing research? Some of the things we found is that some students don't know what the research is. I mean, it's not something that a lot of times is presented to you. You think of doing your turn in the paper, you never want to see it again. But we want them to realize that they can work into a much larger experience with it. And they also don't know about the opportunities that exist, and this is where CUR is trying to make a difference. We also find many of our students commute. And I'm sure this was an actual shot of Hardy Street on Friday. And coming in today, have jobs and families. And so we also try to help with some of the concerns that can be impedances. Even if they are aware of what research is, they just may not be able to fit it into their schedule for various reasons. And then also lack of faculty participation. Very frequently, everybody's worried about tenure, and they don't have built-in rewards for doing mentoring. It's not part of the faculty handbook where they know how it's going to fit in. It's not that they don't want to do it, but they just are fearful that the time devoted to it could be costing them a publication or whatever it might be. So that's where we're trying to help out, and these are just some of the areas that we work with. The first one is trying to hook up faculty with students who have similar research interests. We have 160 faculty, or approximately 25% of the faculty, have become what are referred to as faculty affiliates. And they have to go through and fill out a little questionnaire and provide a headshot. And then they get their own web page. And what this allows students to do is to go to the SPUR web page. They can open up the different colleges, find the individuals who are listed, and if you click on their name, this is what you get. And so our former provost who set up the center was very explicit, you have to have a headshot. Because a lot of times when people submit a photo, you know how they're on top of a mountain, you see a little speck. We wanted the student to be able to walk down the hall and know who that faculty mentor is, so that if they see them, they might say, oh, he was the one who smiled at me, or I talked with her at some sort of a reception one time. So that is why the headshot is so important. And just a little bit of what the faculty anticipates they might be able to work with students. So, and the main thing is that we hope that by having that out there, that they know they will get a welcome if they go to contact that professor. The professor may not be able to work with them, but they will help guide them to somebody who would be able to better fit their project. We also have what's called EagleSpur, and we're very proud of it. We've given probably close to about 80 students over the last 2 years, up to $1,000 worth of funding. And as you can see, I'm sure most of us would kill for that kind of a funding rate. So 50% is pretty good. And so given that, you can see in some colleges it's a little higher than others, but overall, we've done about half of the applications in each of the semesters. And we hold 2 a semester, or 2 a year, 1 in the fall and 1 in the spring. And then they do the research the following or the subsequent semester as well. And we've had students use the money for research expenses. Some have traveled. We've had 2 of them that have traveled to the National Archives. One of them over fall break went to Dartmouth because evidently there are the papers of Frost up there. And so she's going to his personal documents to work with it. So our students have made wonderful trips that would not have been possible without the support. And then some of them use it as a stipend, which means they can maybe work a few fewer hours on their job. Or maybe they could get an apartment in Hattiesburg and not have to commute. And that opens up a room in their schedule so that they can participate in EagleSpur. And the only requirement is that they have to present their findings within a year. And some of our students are upset because they don't find anything dramatic. And of course, that's a disappointment. And you have to try to tell them that's just as valuable. But they all want that p-value of 0.05, and sometimes it doesn't happen, actually most times. But nevertheless, we do require that they have to present it in some sort of an academic setting. But it's very loose as to where they can present it. One place we're very proud that we have is Undergraduate Research Symposium. And this is what we co-sponsor with the Honors College. And last year we had 140 presentations, and we're hoping that we're going to inch towards 200 this year if possible. But no matter what, we've been very fortunate to have a generous sponsor for the event. And so students compete in categories that included everything from local and regional events to health issues to man-made materials for people over in chemistry and polymer science. I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones. Aesthetics, do you remember some of the other ones? Oh,
Politics and government.
something like that.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is to try to get them, so people are not just hearing papers that they've already heard from people in their department 5 times over in a classroom setting. So that you might have someone from political science or someone from biology and someone from business in the same setting. And we've been very lucky to have very generous awards. And we also intersperse it with artistic performances, with music at lunch and dance at one of the exhibitions. So it's a wonderful 2-day event, and it's very professional, which I appreciate. It's not something done on the cheap for the students. We also take our students to conferences, and we've been able to provide support to students to go to Posters on the Hill, which is where they present papers in the state or in the U.S. Capitol to legislators. So they talk with congressmen and senators and representatives from the administration who come and visit them and talk to them about their research. And hopefully it will have an effect on legislation. We're also going to take some students to a national conference of undergraduate research where over 3,500 students participate. And going to Asheville, North Carolina is not a bad thing either. So we're doing a mini version of Posters on the Hill in Jackson called Posters in the Rotunda. And we're having all of the 8 public universities in the state participate as well. And again, they'll talk with the state legislators about their work. And we also asked them if they would like to present them in Catalyst. And Catalyst is where our second presenter, JD, will be talking a little bit more about it. And I will say that the Aquila has been phenomenal. We submit our applications for EagleSpur through Aquila. You have, we're hoping to be able to put up all the 2-page reports that are done on all the research projects, as well as if they have a poster or something that is very tangible onto Aquila, so that the research that the students are doing can be accessible to as many people as possible. So, but right now we have an undergraduate who has taken over as the head editor for the Catalyst, resurrecting it after a couple of years of sort of just quiet. And so JD Rimann will come in and talk to you a little bit. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fine.
I thought I
Perfect.
pronounced it. You look so. We'll talk to you a little bit about what he's been up to with some of the students.
I guess it's just scary. Well, my name is Jaden Rimann. I'm a senior here, major in history, minor in comm studies, and I have taken over as the editor-in-chief of the Catalyst as an undergraduate. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on parts of undergraduate research that more specifically touch the journal. I certainly can't live up to Dr. Danforth's fantastic presentation. And then walk you through a little bit of what the Catalyst is, the history behind it, and what we're really envisioning it's going to be doing in the future. So the parts, when I don't have a slideshow, I apologize. So the big thing that I see when I think of undergraduate research, and specifically how an undergraduate journal can tie into that, is the benefits both for the student and for the university. On the university side, there's that prestige not only in doing the undergraduate research, but in having that journal. The history of journals in the United States really starts about 15, 20 years ago in Ivy League schools, and especially University of Virginia, where they begin to say, look, we need to take the next step and have undergraduates actively engaged in doing research, especially undergraduates who are going to be going on to academic careers. And so now more and more you're seeing that when you apply to grad school, these top schools expect students who have already been engaged in undergraduate research. Furthermore, the very top tier, your MITs, your Harvard Business Schools, absolutely expect students to have been published. If you're applying for a national scholarship, such as the Truman Scholarship, the Marshall Scholarship, it's very much expected that you are going to have been published. And it's very difficult sometimes for undergraduates to get published, of course, in mainline academic journals. A history major such as myself might have a fantastic article that they write, but chances of them getting it published in the Journal of War and Society are slim to none. That's where these undergraduate research journals really start to come in. When universities such as Stanford realize that, hey, if we have our own undergraduate research journal, we can get our undergraduates published. We can get this stuff on their CV. This is going to be benefiting us because we're going to be sending our undergrads to top tier institutions and helping them get there. It's going to benefit the student because they're going to have that experience, they're going to have it on their resume. And so USM decided, hey, we need to get in the game. And you can't blame them because really, you don't want to be behind. It's my favorite analogy here. Are there any basketball fans in the room? A couple? All right. University of Kentucky under John Calipari. They're very much known for sending players to the NBA. And so a lot of times, top-ranked recruits would rather go to the University of Kentucky and play there, even though they know they'll be sitting on the bench, because it's an NBA system, and they know, hey, our chances of getting to the big leagues are better, even though they might be starting if they went to St. Mary's, for example. Rough analogy to that here, where students are going to want to come in and say, look, you have the resources and the track record now of sending students to good grad schools because you have these things, undergraduate research journal, in place. And so you don't want to be left behind now. So the Catalyst itself really starts in the early 2010s, where it was under the Honors College. And so the idea was to have a student-driven, student-run undergraduate research journal, which would give good experience to students such as myself, who are on the editorial board, to grad students who we would use as peer advisors, and then also, of course, to the undergraduate students submitting their work. Now, unfortunately, under the Honors College, it was not as focused as maybe it could have been. The funding wasn't all there. You know, the Honors College, of course, has so many things going on. Has the University Forum, has all these specific Honor Scholars events, and so the Catalyst fell by the wayside. And I believe our last issue was published in 2013, fall of 2013. So it's laid a little bit dormant since then. So recently it was moved under the Center for Undergraduate Research, where it will have hopefully a little bit more of a focus on that, because it's specifically, you know, it's the outlet for this undergraduate research. It's where we want to showcase the end product of all the fantastic work that Curd does. And of course, under Josh now, it's going to be on Aquila, and so it's going to be open access online, which should really be a good thing, because now this work that our undergraduate students are doing can be cited. It's easier to publish. It's not nearly as expensive as publishing an actual print run of journals 2 or 3 times a year. And so we're very excited about this. So for this relaunch, like I said, we don't want to be in an environment now where we don't have an undergraduate research journal, as they're becoming more and more important. And so we want to still capture that original spirit that the Catalyst had in the Honors College, where it's going to be student-driven, it's going to be student-run. However, it's going to be a little more focused. We're going to be collaborating a little bit closer with faculty, with Dr. Danforth, and with Josh here. So yeah, and like I said, think a little bit better focus under the Center for Undergraduate Research. So one of the big things we'll look at is how are students going to apply for this. You know, you've done your research, you're doing well, how do you apply? So you go online, you go to our homepage on Aquila, I think it's aquila.usm.catalyst.
aquila.usm.edu/southernmisscatalyst.
aquila.usm.edu/southernmisscatalyst, for all you watching now. So you're going to go there, you're going to click Submit Article. That's going to prompt you to actually create a sign-in, username, password, all that good stuff. Shouldn't take more than a second. From there, you'll just follow the steps. You'll sign away your life with a copyright agreement. No, I'm kidding, open access, so it'll be fine. So you'll just go through all those steps. It's completely paperless, which I think is a big deal, because if you are a student who's done some sort of complex research and you have a 20 or 30 page research paper, isn't it going to be so much easier simply to upload it online, maybe in a certain format so that the editors can review and put it into the journal, instead of having to print that whole thing off and dropping a paper copy at the Honors House or at the Center for Undergraduate Research. So I think just little steps like that, just making it paperless. We're not only saving costs, but we're making it easier for students to submit. So we're taking one more barrier out of the way for this process to occur. And furthermore, we want to keep the honors tie-in. A lot of our Eagle Spur scholars, a lot of the people who present at the Honors Symposium are from the Honors College, obviously. And so we want to keep that tie-in. So we think that a lot of times those articles are going to be the ones that we're going to want to appear in the journal, that original undergraduate research that we can showcase. And since it's an interdisciplinary journal, it's the ideal forum for this. It's not going to be all history articles, and I'm sorry, but Polymer, we just can't have you here. No, it's going to be any discipline on campus, any student can submit, can get published. So regardless of whether you're applying for a school for your MBA or your MFA, either way, the Catalyst is a good place for you to publish any sort of research there. And we're hoping to publish a special issue probably at the beginning of next semester from this most recent Honors Symposium. And so that's going to include some of the winners from the Honors Symposium, some of the best papers there, get those published, kind of get the journal onto its feet, off the ground floor, so to speak. And we hope to continue to do that throughout the life of the journal, where after every symposium, we'll have the best papers there that were presented, the winners, published and kind of in a format. We think that this will help encourage people to apply to the Honors Symposium, as well as help us get that material to present. So it's kind of the big stuff that I want to talk about today. Of course, I'll be happy to take any questions afterwards, and thank you for your time.
Can you talk about the review process?
Yes, absolutely. Good to be back. So for the review process, what we'd like to do, of course, is me and the 2 editors and Josh will be working together, but we don't have the experience or the ability to review a diverse and wide range of submissions from each college on campus. So what we envision doing is helping grad students act as our peer reviewers. People who are already experts in the field or working to be experts in the field can review this undergraduate work and make sure that, yes, this is high quality, this is publishable. So that allows us to have that peer review process without having to take up the time from actual professors. Anything else? All right, now I'm going to slip off.
I had one more question.
Let's hear it.
What happened to it in my head? Oh, copyright.
Yes, copyright. So submitters will retain full copyright to their work, and so it'll simply be published in the Catalyst, but it's going to be open access and stored on Aquila from there on out. So it can be cited, but if they want to publish it in another journal, for example, let's say that my submission that I was knocking earlier actually does make it to the Journal for War and Society, then students would be allowed to do that as long as that journal was okay with it. All right, thank you.
Any other questions for either of our two presenters?
Do you have an idea of what the timeline would be from submission to publication? Any idea?
Yes, I think right now we're looking to publish one issue a semester. So if you submit your submission in August or September, you should know no later than November if it's going to be published. Which I think is a little bit better turnaround than a lot of the academic peer
That's a
reviewers
fast
out
track.
there.
Would students who had, let's say the student who had the dance, could they put in an article that would just be video? If you know,
Yes,
kind of
for
thing?
sure. I think that's one of the real benefits of publishing online, is that if your research has involved a certain type of dance, like the troupe that we had that went over to London recently, then you can actually submit that online in a video format, and so we can display it in a way that simply would not be possible in traditional print format.
Anything else?
I'll just add what you had said about people publishing, because I remember when I graduated, got my PhD, you were supposed to start publishing.
Mhm.
And then graduate students are now supposed to have 3 or 4 publications getting their PhD. And to do it as undergraduate, thing that was expected, but you do have to give them the venues.
Yeah, for
And-
sure.
And there are many, not many, but some websites that have actually emerged, which help undergraduates find publication venues, trying to list all the different journals and all that, because it is becoming so important.
I have one quick question for you,
Mhm.
just out of curiosity. I noticed when you were showing the breakdown of applicants for Eaglesboro by
Yes.
college that there was nobody from nursing. Is that because the undergraduate program there is more practical focus rather than research, or
To a
what's the-
degree, yeah. And I know Michelle's Story is trying to encourage it as much as they can, but part of it is just they have so many clinical hours, and it's much more regimented degree that they just don't have the freedom to do it. But we're hoping that that's one of the places that we're working. There in business are 2 schools that we're trying to up the participation on. So.
I will say that if you're an undergraduate who just really wants to publish as an undergrad, by far the most numerous discipline out there as far as undergraduate journals goes is philosophy, strangely enough. But several schools such as Stanford have 2 or 3 different undergraduate philosophy journals. So kind of interesting.
That is.
Yeah.
Last call, any other questions?
The journals that are in Aquila, do we have them in the library catalog? Have we looked at that?
I'm not sure. I know some are, but I'm not sure if they all are.
Let's
So-
look and see if we can make sure that is, and we can also get those records into WorldCat, so they're not discoverable as well.
Josh, have they talked about revitalizing synergy from the graduate school?
Not that I've heard it at this point.
Okay.
So, but that's certainly something we're open to if they want to pursue that.
We'll show them how it can be done.
There you go. Well, that's the thing. This
Yeah.
could be the model that shows them, hey, look what could be done with this in an online format. So,
And one thing that we found is that we're the only real active center for undergraduate research in the state. Jackson State has one, but it's works a little bit differently. It's professors have a project, and then undergraduates can come in and help on it, where we're the only one that sort of reverses the order of it. And so some of the schools have certain things that go on through honors colleges, but we tried to keep ours as broad as we could, just so that no student would feel that they couldn't participate. And sometimes some of the best projects we have gotten done are through students who might be 3.0 average, but they're just so devoted and passionate about something that they're willing to excel in it and go for it.
all right, I'm not seeing any further questions, so I guess let's thank Dr. Danforth and JD for a great presentation.